predictions, because these good people, I think, want to go home with some good stuff. We'll start, I think, with the champion hurdle, if that suits everybody. It could well end up in a historic week if Bouvardaire makes it 3 in a row and becomes the first since Istabrack. Apples Jade is leading the betting. Richard, where do you stand on the champion hurdle? We can have a good, honest discussion on this, because you don't have a ride and you don't have a runner, so we can have a good row about this and we won't offend anybody.
I think for me, if it was run at Leopardstown, Apples Jade definitely win. But her form when she comes over here doesn't always seem as strong as it does in Ireland. For me, that is my. I think if I could, she's the one I want to ride. But her form over here definitely isn't as strong. And I think Bouvardaire, he's the one that's been there, done it. You always think there's a horse that's going to come and beat him, but at the same time, he keeps winning. I know he got beat at Christmas, but I think on a flat track, an easy 2 miles, I think the Cheltenham champion hurdle suits him well. Again, the rain seems to come, which he definitely enjoys. So I think, on balance, Bouvardaire is going to have to be my sort of selection. It's going to be very hard. There's very, very few horses have ever won 3 champion hurdles. So, but yeah, it's a close call. But for me, Bouvardaire, I think everyone likes winners, and he keeps winning.
Yeah, coming out of Leopardstown and that victory for Apples Jade, 26 lengths, I think the sounds of Eddie O'Leary were that they still wanted to go for the mares, but eventually he relented, went home, realised the option that they had at the table, and I think it'll be a very, very good start for the Irish if Apples Jade can romp home in this.
Yeah, well, like Lorena, first of all, we don't know how good Lorena is. Lorena, Ruby and Willie have stuck with her. She's never raced against, the males. Lorena could win this, or she might be unplaced. Personally, I don't fancy Bouvardaire. I think that, with complete respect to the fact that he's won 2 champion hurdles, he beat, I think, Petit Mouchoir in my 10 years the first year. Last year, he dogged it out with Mellon, and Mellon hasn't done anything in the last year, really. He beaten by Verdana Blue, £20 less on official ratings at Christmas. To me, I can't trust Bouvardaire at the price. Apples Jade has won 4 races brilliantly in the last season over all distances. She's showing the form that I thought she showed as a 4-year-old when she won on soft ground at Aintree by 41 lengths, when she was second at the Triumph Hurdle here, had the likes of Footbad, Clan des Oboes, Show Royal behind her, and has won a mare's hurdle here. She was in season last year. I think Apples Jade is the one to beat. Lorena, we don't know anything about. I personally don't fancy Bouvardaire. Espoir d'Alain is a horse with a turn of foot, had a price, but he's a 5-year-old, and only, out of 101 runners since 1985, only one 5-year-old has won. So to me, Apples Jade is the one to beat. Lorena is the puzzle.
Willie Mullins obviously has a brilliant record in the Unibet Champion Hurdle. There seems to have been some money coming for Lorena over the last few days, and they won't have any problem with this rain and snow and hail that we've seen over the last little while. Where do you stand on Lorena, Paul?
I think none of us really know. I mean, she's been impressive in what she's done. She won well here last year. She's beat nothing this year. The Sandown race she ran in was a non-event. She's obviously good and she goes in the ground, but for me, when I was at Sandown watching Apples Jade win at Leopardstown, I just thought straight away she'll win the champion hurdle. And Bouvardaire's obviously been a very, very good horse. To win 2 champion hurdles is an awesome by any standard. But like he did only just win last year. He got beat at Kempton over Christmas, admittedly on different ground to what it will probably be tomorrow. But I just think he's vulnerable, and I think Apples Jade will take all the beating.
I personally, I think this is one of the bets of the week, Lorena, because kind of what John said about Apples Jade, in many ways I think is a bit of a negative, because she was in fantastic form going into the Triumph. She got beaten at Cheltenham. She's in fantastic form going into the Champion Hurdle. She's 1 from 3 at Cheltenham, and last year she was beaten by Benny Jadua with Midnight Tour in second. Midnight Tour's a 66 to 1 shot, and I defy anyone to tell me really what Midnight Tour's done this year. Yes, she was in season, but she was beaten in the Triumph behind Ivanovic Gorbachev. It was a decent Triumph, but there has to be a doubt about Apples Jade at Cheltenham for me. Bouvardaire, I think that's a really good point, because they haven't been vintage champion hurdles. I'm not convinced Bouvardaire quite gets the credit he deserves. But 2 starts ago, this horse was beaten by Verdana Blue at Kempton, and last time out, for all that it was relatively impressive, he beat Vision de Flo. So I don't think people are saying Lorena, we don't know the strength of her form. She's won her last 6 starts by a combined total of 110 lengths. she can't really do much more going into a champion hurdle. The other sort of strength she has when you look at the form book is that she will absolutely love soft ground. And there is one slight concern that I have, and that is that at a couple of her hurdles this year, she does seem to take quite a lot of air. And in Apples Jade, and particularly Bouvedere, you have, in Bouvedere's case, one of the best hurdlers I've ever seen, and probably quite similar to See You Then, who was a triple champion hurdler in the late 80s, who Nicky Henderson always says was the fastest horse he's ever seen over a hurdle. But for me, I think Apples Jade and Bouvedère's form is very questionable, and I know that will probably get people picking up on this in the bars afterwards, going, how can you say it's questionable? Apples Jade's Cheltenham record isn't great. Bouvedère was beaten by Verdana Blue, who I don't think will get anywhere near to them in the champion hurdle. Lorena's done nothing wrong, and all the vibes from Ireland, from the Willie Mullins camp anyway, are that she has the X factor and some. So from a price point of view, the fact that she's third favourite around about 4-1, I think that is an outstanding bet.
Richard, which horse would you want to be on?
Thank you, sir.
Not Lorena, no. At the end, I just think, but for me, Apples Jade's form at Cheltenham, that's my biggest worry. So I'd go for Bouvedère. He's been here, he's done it. Nicky Henderson's a great man for bringing him back, for the big day. So I'd be very hard pushed to get away from him.
Yeah, lads, anything catch your fancy?
Yeah, a story about Apples Jade. I came in here a few years ago, and a lovely man walked in alongside me, Noel O'Brien, the former senior handicapper from Ireland, passed away tragically since. And I asked him, had you anything for me for the day? And he said, I'm going to give you one, but it mightn't be today, but you got to stay on the right side of her, Apples Jade. And it's the tip that keeps giving. Years later, I'm still collecting, so it's going to be very hard for anybody to put me off Apples Jade.
Yeah, I've been backing Apples Jade since she went over to Gordon Stable. So yeah, Apples Jade owes me nothing. I'll be backing her again this time out. Yeah, and 2-1, it's short and a champion hurdle, but that's what I'll be going with. Yeah, this week.
On Bouvedère, obviously there was the setback then over Christmas, but Paul, you know what you're getting, Cheltenham in March. You know that generally it's going to turn up and perform. Does that not stand for a lot?
Yeah, of course it does, and he will definitely appreciate the rain that's come, today.
Any outsiders catch your fancy?
I'm sort of all in on Lorena, to be honest.
Clearly.
Yeah. Brainpower Nico de Bonville, in one of the columns he writes in the lead up to the race. This is quite a strong travelling horse who won at Cheltenham earlier in the season. I could see him running all right, but this is if not, well, I think it is the race of the week, to be honest, because those three horses, Bouvedère, Apples Jade and Lorena, are high class. Some people were making a case for Sharjah as well from Willie Mullins' yard, but I think if you are having a bet, the winner is going to come from the top three, and for me, I'm very sweet on Lorena.
All right, we might look at the...
Thank you, sir, again. Cheers.
The Betway Queen Mother Champion Chase on Wednesday. Is this going to be a very, very short discussion? Altior, all in?
Yep. I'll be amazed. I'll be amazed if anyone thinks he can get beat anyway.
Is there any weakness, Paul, in Altior?
Well, it doesn't appear to be. I mean, they all get beat at some stage or another, but he's on the cusp of a Big Bucks record, actually, for the most wins on the trot, I think.
Yeah.
Is that right? Big Bucks
yeah, if Altior wins, he would have won 18 in a row.
Is that equal or one more than
equal
Big Bucks? Well, so that's some achievement. Yeah, no, he keeps on turning up, and last year I remember watching the race, and as he turned into the straight towards the last, he looked beat for a few strides, and he pulled wide and changed gear, which he seems to do all the time. So yeah, he's there to be shot at. He will get beat one day, but at the moment it looks impossible.
I kind of don't really buy into that, to be honest. Like, they do all get beaten, but some horses don't get beaten. Winks and Abel, Big Bucks. This is the thing about Altior.
Big Bucks got beat. They do get beat.
Well, I don't think Altior will, basically. If you look at some of the horses, and there's a feature on ITV about great unbeaten records in sport, and Altior is so good, and he's streets ahead of his opposition. And what I loved about Altior last year, which sort of got the hairs on the back of my neck standing up, was he did look like he was going to be beaten at one stage, and then he peeled off, and he ended up winning by streets. There's nothing, well, barring an accident, there's no way, in my opinion, that Altior will get beaten. And I think that he's such a short price that there will be lots of people in this room won't be backing him. But I think he's a horse that we need to sit back and savour, because he's not just one of the best of his generation, he's one of the best of of any generation. He's a joy to watch.
Is there anything in the betting without?
Not for me, really. I mean,
What about Politolog?
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking to John. It's just we may well run Politolog. I don't think, the race is going to cut up. He's been second to him before. I was just looking down through there today. He'd have every chance of being second. He's in good form.
Good each way bet.
Yeah, and if his ride's sort of testing 2 miles, that will help him. So he could well be a good each way bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
John, are you all in on Altior?
Altior, just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. The only thing that could beat Altior is Altior himself. Maybe a lapse of concentration. He did hit one, or he didn't beat one right at Sandown in the Tingle Creek, and that's the only thing that can beat him. He's got this unbelievable turbo boost at the end of his races. Like Undersow, that race in the Tingle Creek was set up completely for Undersow, soft ground, right-handed, and Altior just picked him off. Did the same to Min, has won 17, as Oli is saying there, and Paul. So you're like, the race will cut up. I think Footpad will probably go for the 2.5 miler. The Ryanair, Min running this. Min doesn't have that turn of foot. So really, it's Altior will win the race, barring an accident or barring him falling or lapsing concentration. But he is generally such a good jumper that, or the ground or something going wrong. So just look, put it in your multiples. Altior will win. It'll add to your multiples. I met Henry de Bromhead last week, and he mentioned Ordinary World, and I look back at the form, and to me, he's not good enough even to get really in the frame, but he did mention him. So Royale has been running well, but really, like, if you're trying to find out who's going to be second or third to Altior, I think you're going down a path that's probably not the best for you. Try and find a winner somewhere else. Altior will win the race, and try to find another winner somewhere else in the card.
Just going on your accumulators, lads.
Yeah, well, we've got Politolog there each way, but we've got that from the trainer's mouth. I was looking at Undersow each way, actually. Undersow each way for Willie Mullins. So
the ground will suit Undersow.
Yeah, that's what I.
Well, he run in the Ryanair.
Yeah, probably might run the Ryanair. Yeah.
But yeah, I'll go on Politolog there. There you go.
Well, talking about the Ryanair then, have you made a decision on what's running in the Ryanair? Is Frodon running in the Ryanair?
Well, I thought we had until I had a text from the owner half an hour before I walked in.
So give us the latest.
I would say with the ground being softer, run in the Ryanair, because if it had been a dry week and the ground had been really good, the Gold Cup, you could have looked at it. If you're looking you're trying to win with your horses, the Ryanair looks a lot easier to win than the Gold Cup. He's great on that track. You know he's going to get 2 mile 5 very well, especially if it's soft, and got to confirm it yet, but I'd say he'll run in the Ryanair, and he's in really good shape. I think he'll run very well.
Those sort of discussions, is there an awful lot of back and forth, or do you just leave it as late as possible?
Well, you always got to keep discussing it, and there's so many things can change with the ground and horses running in different races, so you can't have things set in stone, because things do change at the last minute. But yeah, you've got to keep talking and trying to do at the end of the day, you're trying to do the right thing. They're trained, and you're trying to produce them here at Cheltenham to win. It's not, it's not a fairy tale thing. You're trying your best to win, so you've got to run them in the races you've got the best chance.
Is there occasions though where it's just the fairy tale of the Gold Cup that the owner wants them in?
It does happen from time to time. We're trying to avoid that, because if you're competitive and you want to do the best, there's no point just going for a run round and finishing wherever else. You want to go out there to win. Richard,
the Ryanair, it's still up in the air, I think, for quite a lot of the possible entrants. What are you looking at?
Yeah, I think it's just trying to basically work out obviously what's running in it. I think Footpad, his performance here in the Arkell last year, I think we were all like sort of taken back by him. He was very impressive. Obviously, perhaps the form hasn't really worked out, and this year, what he's shown, I think this year is hard. It seems hard that he seems nearly favourite on what he's shown this year. But again, if he could come back to that sort of performance that he put in the Arkell last year, obviously that gives him a great chance. But I would be thinking, it's a bit of a leap of faith to back him if he's such a short price, after the form he showed. But Undersow, he's the one that he'll definitely handle the ground. I suppose it's just a question of whether he quite gets up the hill over 2 mile 5. But I thought Frodon, he absolutely loves it around here. Obviously Brian gets on really well with him, but he just gets in that rhythm, and he almost saves energy by jumping well. He jumps really well and puts other horses under pressure. I suppose again, I presume it's just as long as him and Undersow don't take each other and do too much. But again, I think his performances around here, again, I personally, I thought that was the race he'd probably go for, because he just looks ideal for that race.
Ollie, looks a really interesting race.
Yeah, it sure does. I think obviously Frodon and the vibes are that Footpad's going to go to the Ryanair. Underso, I think, on the ground has to be considered, but the one horse that hasn't been mentioned yet is Monolly, who was second to Presenting Percy in the RSA last year, won in Ireland last time out, will be ridden, I think, I don't know whether it's confirmed, but I think Rachel Blackmore, who won on him last time out, will ride. And this is a horse, he comes over with a goat called Harvey, who'll be in the stables with him. There's quite good shots in the morning when they arrive. And he's a very talented horse. I think the Ryanair is one of the most open races of the week for me, because in Underso, Footpad, Frodon and Monolly, as well as the others, you've got 4 very talented horses. And I'm finding it hard just to see sort of who you'd want just edging clear. Conditions will be important. Tactics obviously will be important. As Richard rightly said, Underso and Frodon won't want to do too much too soon. So I'm struggling to sort of work out who I really fancy in the race. But if I was to have a bet now, it would be on Monolly probably.
Is he definitely running in this race?
Well, there were rumours that he might go Gold Cup.
Yeah, I've been hearing that today. I mean, rumours are rumours, but
yeah,
it just seemed to be out there.
But soft ground with him in a Gold Cup over that trip, I'm not sure would be the most sensible. It's a bit like, if it was good ground, and Frodon might very well run in the Gold Cup because it's easier to get home, but I'd be surprised if it's soft ground if they ran Monolly in the Gold Cup, and I wouldn't fancy him in a Gold Cup on soft ground.
I think you'd be struggling to think he's going to reverse the form from Presenting Percy in the Gold
Absolutely.
Cup. So you'd have thought that, again, looking from an outsider, it looks the obvious. And I think it's important. I know, obviously, all punters and people watching racing and betting, they obviously, if you have an anti-post bet, you want the trainers to tell you a long way in advance. But actually, like Paul said, I think it's the most important thing is the weather changes. There's lots of things can change, so you want to try and give your horse the best chance. And I know it's frustrating for people, but it's got to be the right thing to run the right horse in the right race.
Is that the way you always approach it, Paul? Just leave it as late as possible?
Yeah,
or?
You've got to, because as I said earlier, so many things change, mostly the ground. And yeah, in opposition, horses drop away, go another, things will change as the week goes on this week, and there will be horses that surprisingly change at the last minute. So you've got to be on it and try and run them in the right race.
John, how are you looking at this?
Yeah, you really need to see what's declared on Tuesday, because the 48-hour declarations. We'll know the cards now for Tuesday, so you'll get the declarations on Tuesday for Thursday. So Balco de Flo won the race last year, really impressively, but has not done much since. So you have to kind of wonder about his form. Monolly, I would agree with Ollie. I think if he turns up in this, he jumps very well. He's been second at 2 festivals. He's a pretty straightforward horse. How much resolution that he has, I don't know. But I would try, like Footpad, I loved last year. I backed him in the Arkell. I thought he was brilliant. I thought if there's one horse to put up to Altior in the champion chase, it'd be Footpad. But in both races this year, he's had overreaches. He's had problems in his races. And to me, I can't trust Footpad in a 2.5 mile. And he'll get the trip, but I can't trust him at the price given what he's shown this year. So wait and see what's declared. But Monolly, I would be on the side of Terra 4, 2A Permi. These are all other horses in the mix. So wait and see what happens. But Monolly is somebody over that distance. I'll be on the right side of Frodon as well, of course, has acted in the course. So hard to say at the moment.
92 a good price for Monolly?
At the moment, no. I'd just leave it until I think I'd have much better sense of what's running in the stayers the same day than I do in the Ryanair.
Lads, you got any thoughts?
No, I'm listening away.
Yeah, you're just taking notes.
Yeah.
Somebody give them.
Honestly, last year with Michael Leary winning it, desperate. It's his race, isn't it? I suppose. So he'll be strong again in it this year, won't he?
Yeah. You mentioned the Stayers hurdle, which will be up straight afterwards. Paisley Park's one you have a good interest in, John?
Well, Paisley Park is a great story. It's Andrew Gemmell, I think he's visually impaired, and I think he named the horse after Prince's recording studios because he's a massive fan of Prince. And the horse it's a great, once again, a great national hunt story, and it's not all about betting. And I talked about Demon earlier on, and like when I watched Demon win the 2008 Gold Cup, it didn't matter a jot if I had £100 on him or £1 on him or whatever. You were just seeing steeplechasing as an art and the magnificence of a horse jumping 22 fences over 3 1/4 miles and pounding the rivals into submission. And to me, if you're seeing a story like Paisley Park and the great story around it, Emma Lavelle doesn't get these kind of horses every day of the week. Horse reminds me a little of Big Bucks. I don't know, Paul, you probably disagree with me or whatever, but that he tends to kind of come off the bridle a bit, and then he kind of finds a lot towards the end of his races. Now, he was really disappointing in the Albert Bartlett last year. He was out with the washing after 6 flights. That would concern me a little bit. Not sure about the quality of the horses he's beaten. So at the price, Paisley Park, even though he'd be the most romantic winner, and on the basis of the Cleeve Hurdle run, maybe he's just found something, and Emma's found something in Barry Fenton at the yard. But the horse in the Stairs Hurdle I like is a horse that's been useless over fences, called Bacardi's. He's been working very well at home, I've heard. He's about 12-14 to 1 shot. Could have been third in the race last year, but for falling at the last in a race that turned into a sprint where he needs a gallop, Bacardi's. He's won 2 Grade 1 hurdles in Ireland, novice hurdles, and he's a horse. He's like he was third in the bumper here. He won the Aintree bumper. He's not a flashy horse. Visually, he doesn't look too flashy, but he always finds a lot under pressure. And Bacardi's for Willie Mullins about 14 to 1 could be an each way bet.
Ollie, there's been a good bit of money for Bacardi's over the last couple of days as well.
Yeah, there's a few horses at bigger prices that come into the equation, but as John was touching on, the story with Paisley Park, I think the neutral, wherever you're watching the race, will be cheering this horse on, because the Andrew Gemmell story is unbelievable. This is one of the most enthusiastic owners you'll ever see, and the enjoyment he gets when he's cheering his horse on in the paddock, listening to the commentary, as John touched on, he was blind since birth. I desperately want, and I haven't had a bet in the race at the moment. I wouldn't be backing Paisley Park at the price, but I desperately want that man to have the winner of the race, because that for me encapsulates what racehorse ownership and being a racing fan is all about, because you'll struggle to see anyone on any racecourse anywhere in the world enjoy the experience more than Andrew Gemmell. And I think on the Albert Bartlett point, yes, that is a worry, but I think it's completely clear to me that we are dealing now with the finished article, whereas at the Albert Bartlett he was green, raw. I remember watching him at Warwick actually when he was beaten, and he was very immature, and now he is, as I say, the finished article. And the way he powered up the hill in the Cleeve was phenomenal. We do have a similar situation to Sam Spinner last year when we had a very impressive, progressive new kid on the block, if you like, and he didn't deliver. But I think that Paisley Park is the one they've all got to beat. The talk is, though, from Ireland is that Faheen is absolutely flying. And so it's the new pretender against the old champion. And that's going to be a phenomenal race, as well as all the other horses at bigger prices that have got chances. So this is a more open race than the betting's giving it credit for, I think.
Paul, the comparisons of Paisley Park and Big Bucks?
Well, he is, you're right, he races behind the bridle like Big Bucks always used to. Never looks like he's travelling well, never looks like he's going to win, and from the back of the last takes off and always does win. So he's very much like him in that way. I think Faheen's a big danger. If he comes back to his best, he won over 3 at Punchestown. The horse I actually fancy is an outsider, but I think he'll run very well, is Top Notch. He's well capable of running a good race.
Richard?
I think, yeah, look, Paisley Park, you couldn't help but be impressed with what he's done this year. Actually, he beat me at Aintree in a handicap hurdle start of the season, and I thought I was riding quite a well-handicapped horse, and he came past me at second last and bolted up, and he's got better and better. And again, especially in the Cleeve here, I thought he was very, very impressive. I don't think he'll mind the ground. He just seems to have the right sort of attitude, and he's going the right way. So it's very hard to look past him. I think that there's some statistic about the Albert Bartlett. I think there's been 10 festival winners come out of after the Albert Bartlett that pulled up or ran terribly in the Albert Bartlett, and have won races, including Native River. So I was being told on a panel the other night. And again, I think a lot of the horses running the Albert Bartlett, they're very big, babyish horses that actually probably aren't quite ready for a 3-mile slog around Cheltenham, and actually they're very good horses, but they're just not ready for that. And then obviously the next year they really start to flourish. So I wouldn't worry about what he did last year here. I think he's shown enough this year. Look, if I could ride a horse in the race, he's the only one I'd want to ride. Faheen, I think William Mullins is a brilliant trainer, but I think he's 10 years old now. I think it's going to be he was very, very good 3 years ago, but I think it's a big ask for him to come back to right to his best. Yeah,
it's a long time since people have referred to Faheen as the machine round here. Either way, a Faheen comeback to win at Cheltenham again would be a hell of a story. Or Paisley Park, these are the stories people want.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody wants the right result for Paisley Park, and Ollie is correct. It is the story of the race. But Faheen would be a hell of a story too. If anything back to his best, and of course Faheen enters calculations I think we might just have seen the best of them, though. It's a hard one to ask people to go and put money on it, but I believe it's been back down again today. There's good word coming from it, working well at home. This feels like a race where I think I might just have a little each way. Bacardi sounds good. You didn't mention the ground with Bacardis.
The ground doesn't matter for Bacardis. Faheen, folks, 1986, last time an 11-year-old won a stairs hurdle, so to me, he's a lay.
There you go.
Yeah, so.
I fancy Super Sunday. I had a great day a couple of months ago down at Jessica Harrington's yard, and seeing how they work, great day. And I'll go with Super Sunday. I fancy Super Sunday each way, about 7-8 to 1.
All right, so that's the Sun Racing Stairs Hurdle Thursday. Let's go back to Tuesday and the opening race. You're on Thomas Darby, are you, in the opener?
Yeah, right, Thomas Darby. I don't think he's got a really good each way chance. I'm not saying he's definitely going to win, but he won here at the first run of the season. He's had 2 races since then. Well, he's won his last one, which wasn't just a normal novice hurdle around Taunton, but he's 2 races since then. Slowly run races that didn't really suit him. I think, Tuesday here, good strong gallop. We're not sure he wants the ground very, very soft. That's slightly unknown. But I think the race will really suit him. He'll run well. Obviously, when he won here, he beat the horse of Colin Tizard's, which I can't really pronounce his name. But yeah, on that form, there's no reason why he shouldn't be, really in the mix. So I like to think the first 2 races here on Tuesday, I've got good rides.
The roar before the first race, how aware as a jockey are you? Is it something that takes time to get used to, or is it something, again, that's sort of overblown by us in the media?
To be honest, there's not one point in the race you ever hear noise, apart from when you do jump off from the first here, and then it's always after the winning post you'll hear a roar as well. But you can hear, even when we're lining up, there's a roar, because before you jump off there is obviously the crowd just come alive. Once we jump off, you're very concentrated on what that them 8 flights of hurdles in front of you, but you can hear that noise. You're half a mile away, but it's very noticeable.
And is it a factor for the horses, do you feel, as well? Do you find them seizing up sometimes? Or
I don't think they don't know. To be honest, for a jockey anyway, when you get down to start, it's great because it's a much more relaxed atmosphere down there. The horses they've had a canter to start. They know what they're doing. For young horses here, I think that's a massive part for whether it's the juveniles or the novice hurdlers, the bumper horses. It's a massive occasion. A lot of these horses have never ever seen, more than probably 2,000-3,000 people, let alone how much are they going to see here just in the paddock. So it's whether some horses will. I think Oli, talked about it earlier. They get very, very worked up, and they can sometimes leave their race, before the start. So that's a big thing for the younger horses. But at the same time, I think the older horses. I think some of the horses actually get a kick out of the atmosphere and the buzz, and especially some of the older horses, it really brings the best out of them.
Right. Thomas Darby's a good price as well, 20 to 1, so a bit of each way value.
Start off with the winner.
At 20 to 1, we'll all be pretty happy.
It's a hard race. The opening race is a hard race. You've Al Dancer in there, Angel's Breath. I think what you've seen with the ground conditions, Classical Dream, Ruby Walsh is going to ride for Willie. A bit of money for it today. Could have run in the 2.5 mile, but with the ground conditions and rain expected on Tuesday morning, this could turn into a race where you've got a furious gallop and then you've horses coming from behind. So it's an each-way race. Elixir de Nuts won the Tallworth Hurdle. That's been a great trial. Somerville Boy won it last year. Al Dancer won that, I think, the Betfair Hurdle. Angel's Breath, I think Oli likes. I think Davy Russell was handling him in point-to-points back in Ireland. So Araman has good form. Felix Deji ran well in the bumper here last year, pulled way too hard. Vision Des Honour, Gordon Elliott likes each way. So it's an each-way race, the Supreme Novices Hurdle on the Tuesday at 1:30.
Al Dancer won't have an issue with the softening ground, will he?
Al Dancer I personally don't fancy, because generally those horses that come from that handicap hurdle tend not to perform at the Supreme. I think, this is a strange thing to say, but at Cheltenham, if you're looking for horses, look at the top in the level weights races. Look at the top rated horses in the Supreme Novices, in the Ballymore, and the Bumper. It sounds the most easiest thing in the world to say, but you could latch on to something that's a talking horse or that's been well backed or it's a good jumper. Often the top rated horses are the horses that win, and also horses that won last time out generally tend to turn up the festival win again, and of course festival form, previous festival form.
Sam Twiston-Davies was reading today saying he feels Al Dancer probably his best chance of the week.
Yeah, I think on paper it certainly looks that way. They haven't declared him with a hood actually, which he'd been wearing recently, and they're going to use earplugs instead, which I'm guessing is probably is that a concern that I mean, obviously they think it's not a concern, but is there much difference in terms of him not having a hood on and earplugs? They do this similar sort of thing, don't they?
Yeah, pretty well. And some horses actually do get fed up with wearing a hood, actually. And they've obviously thought perhaps that is the case with him, and they've been riding him out with the earplugs. And the idea is it just, keeps him a little bit quieter, helps him relax a little bit more, so it won't be a negative.
Right. So, look, in terms of his performance in the Betfair Hurdle, it was impressive, but the horse he beat was Magic Dancer, who's a 132 rated horse. The horse in third, I think you used to train, Blue Cavalier, who was 100 to 1. Getaway Trump was fifth and has been beaten at Kelso since. I don't think it's particularly strong form for all that he won it in good fashion. And as John said, the horse is going out of handicap company, taking on sort of proven graded performers, albeit in the relatively early stages of their careers, a step up. Nigel, Sam and Willie, when he was interviewed afterwards, Twist and Davis, they all said this is the best horse they've trained. So you have to take that seriously. But at the prices, I think there's better value elsewhere. And given that it's the first race of the festival, as we know, there'll be loads of bookmakers, loads of offers. Keep your eyes out, because you might be able to get good each way terms in this race. And I do think this is a race where I'm very sweet on the chance of Angel's Breath. I thought there were positives to be taken from his defeat last time out, and I thought he was very impressive the time before, so I'm going to give him another chance. But there's 7 or 8 that are in with live chances here.
Paul, you've entered Grand Sancy in this.
Yeah, but just talking about...
worried about the favourite?
Yeah, he is. But just talking about Angel's Breath there, I think Angel's Breath won a point-to-point, nearly won a flat race at Ascot, because if you remember that day, the 2 flights of hurdles up the straight were taken out, so they only jumped 4 hurdles? 4 hurdles.
Yeah.
So basically it was a flat race, and he got beat at Kempton by a horse I wouldn't even entertain running in the Supreme. Now, he's obviously a good horse, but does he have the experience to win the Supreme Novice Hurdle? I don't think so. We'll see. Grand Sancy, you were saying about ratings, he's rated 153. Last time he ran, he won Kingwell Hurdle, beating the older horses, given the weight. The third horse won the National Spirit. I think he's got a great chance. He's every bit reminds me of Alfaroff and Noland, who both won the race for me. Tough, gallops, and he won't mind a real battle. So he's had a few runs, but he thrives on it.
Would soft ground be all right for him?
Yeah, well, he was beaten. Was a half length in the Tolworth on heavy ground, and I think we've improved from that day. So I don't think the ground will be an issue, because he stays.
Are you worried about the Irish horses with Classical Dream, Arman? Can you compare the form, Paul?
I haven't, to be honest with you. I was just looking some of those up today. I haven't really looked at what they've been doing. I thought that the English had the upper hand in this race with the ones we've got to run. So, normally the Irish have got the first 5 or 6 in the betting. It's the other way around a little bit. And I think it's a very open race. There are a lot of horses that are on a par, and I think it's a very open race. But I wouldn't swap my lad.
Yeah, I mean, basically all my bets are on day one, so I'm going to either have a great festival or a terrible festival. But as I say, Angel's Breath, Lorena. But Paul's right. I mean, Paul's made a very good case for his horse there. And given those comments about Alfaroff and Nolan, Paul knows what it takes to win these races. I think, as I say, you have to take that very, very seriously indeed. What price?
10 to 1.
See, I mean, as I say, this is for me, I think, a race where you could back 2 or 3 in it, and you'd still make a few quid. And it sounds like you want to have Grand Sancy on your ticket as well.
Harry Cobden will be on board. 20 years old, world at his feet. It's sickening you.
Yeah, seems a long time ago since I was 20. Anyway.
How good is he, Paul?
Well, he's done well this first year, really, for us. He's 2 winners off 100, having missed 4 months of the season. He's won a King George. He's given Surname 2 brilliant rides. He's got better and better every day, and I think he could be a future champion.
How important do you feel experience is? Obviously, at this stage, you're probably going to say very, very important. But in Cheltenham, in particular, with the huge crowds of just being like, do you feel a lot more comfortable around here than you did, say, 18, 19 years ago?
I'm not sure. It's almost you get more experience, but obviously when you're young, it sounds sort of silly, but you think it's you got so much sort of confidence anyway. And like say, Harry's coming here. He's had a fantastic season. He's full of confidence anyway, and he knows his horse. Paul's horse are in great form. Yes, there's no better way to come into a big festival, especially Cheltenham, with the yard you ride for in amazing form, and he's riding on top of his game. So I for me, if there's any one of 20 jockeys, well, all the jockeys riding here, the trainers aren't going to put you up unless they think you can do the job. And I think there's loads and loads of good jockeys. The horse is the important part, and again, it's all the horses. You can't go without the horse. That's the important thing. And you know, someone like Harry, yeah, I wouldn't have any worries that he's relatively young. You know, the main thing is he can do the job and he's on the right horses. So
the RSA Supreme Novices Hurdle is always the traditional curtain raiser at 1/2. You're looking forward to the Racing Post Arkell chase as well, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think Laylor is he's one of my best riders of the week. Again, people have said, oh, he won't want too much rain. It was soft ground when he won an entry last year. The ground here as well, it would be in fantastic condition. I think the race at Sandown came from a bit too soon after he won here at the start of the season. Kaylee Willicott, the trainer, she said, she was sort of 50-50 to run him. I was probably the one that sort of was encouraged to run, and he did run a bit flat at Sandown, but his performance here in November, I was, took my breath away, to be honest, and hopefully if he can put up another display like that, I think he'll take an awful lot of beating. You worried about the favourite? Well, the current favourite, McShannon's Glen Forza? He's a horse that's improved. He couldn't win a novice hurdle, and his 3 wins of fences he's got better and better each time. He was very impressive at Sandown. I think Kalashnikov, definitely, for whatever reason, he just hasn't sparkled this year. It just depends on whether you think that form at Sandown, beating him by 15 lengths, what it was, is good enough to win the Arkell, or if Kalashnikov can finish placed, then he can probably win the Arkell. But for me, I wouldn't change Laylor for anything. He came here, that performance he did here, the form of the faces worked out really, really well. So yeah, he's the one for me. John, your thoughts on Laylor?
I think this is an open race. It would be, a poignant story as well if Laylor won. Like Glen Forza, I love horses that can jump with enthusiasm and rhythm, and Glen Forza can do that. And the Arkell is generally won by the best hurdler. The best hurdlers, you've seen horses in champion hurdles like Chuchev win Arkell chases and that kind of thing. In recent years, it's been a pretty straightforward race to work out. This year, I find it very difficult to work out. I think Laylor's got a chance, Glen Forza's got a chance, Duke de Ginevra's got a chance. Maybe the one I might go for each way at the end of the day is Paloma Blue. Looks every inch chaser. I think Henry de Bromhead is a very good trainer of jumpers. Possibly the horse hasn't jumped as well as he could have, but I think Henry will have him right on the day. Maybe about the 10-1 shot Paloma Blue. And I think it was 4th in the Supreme Novices last year, and it looked a little bit green and inexperienced. So Paloma Blue each way, but once again, the first 2 races look difficult for me, and I think they're better opportunities in the week. Kevin, I know you love to back the Gordon Elliott horses.
Yeah, no, I was looking at Hardline. I'd probably fancy Hardline each way, 6-7-1. So I'll probably back in Hardline in this one as well. And yeah, that's probably the way it is with me. Yeah.
Ollie, how's it shaping up for you?
Yeah, I think there are holes to be picked in Glen Forza's form. 3 starts ago, he won a 3-mile handicap off 1:16, and now he's favourite for the Arkell. And last time out, it was a three-runner race. Kalashnikov, I don't think has quite hit the level we expected him to hit this year. So he's a brilliant jumper, Glen Forza, but I'm not sure the form amounts to an awful lot comparatively. Hardline, I'm going with in the Arkell. He was in the Flogas last time out, and the horse that was second that day won convincingly today in a grade 2 or grade 3 in Ireland. So that form's taken a boost today. There's been plenty of support for him. The rain in the air won't hinder his chances. So in what is an open Arkell, probably not a vintage Arkell, I think Hardline's the horse I'd be siding with.
Paul, you're not running anything in the Arkell now?
I know, a bit disappointed that Dynamite Dollars didn't get there. Sustained an injury last time he ran, and he would have had a beat. He'd probably been favourite having beat Laylor and Kalashnikov. I think it's an open race. I think Glen Forza was gifted a race the other day when Kalashnikov just didn't jump, and I think Kalashnikov wants 2.5. He might jump better. I think Laylor, who's good fresh and was brilliant round here in November, if he's in that form, he'll be the one they've all got to beat. He won the grade 1 entry over hurdles on softish ground, like Richard said, and I think he's the one to beat.
Looking at the handicaps then, from your point of view, what are the ones that you think stand out? What are the ones that are well handicapped?
On the first day?
Over the week?
Give me a copy.
On the first day, just go give me a copper. I think he's got a great chance in the Ultima. He's a horse that's fragile but very talented. He had a great prep run the other day, about 6 weeks ago at Sandown, finished 4th with top weight, and he travelled well to the pond fence, just got a bit tired, and he hadn't been away for a gallop or anything because I wanted that run to bring him on. So I'd like to think he'll love the soft ground, he'll go well. You know, during the week, there's lots of horses. Brio Conti will run well in Coral Cup. Malaya, if she runs again, who won the Imperial Cup, if it's on the soft side, she'd run well again in the County Hurdle. And a horse I really like in the Grand Annual is called Magic Saint.
Have you many decisions to make this week then in terms of races? You supplemented Capeland, was it?
Yeah, Capeland, he's going to run in the JLT. I just think looking at the weather forecast during the week, it's going to, the forecast at the moment says it's going to rain on Tuesday and then dry out really Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So hopefully better ground for him on Thursday. And I thought an open looking JLT. But yeah, the ground will just make the odd decision on a few at the end of the week.
Yeah, it feels, Richard, as though because of the conditions and particularly with the rain that's expected, and we saw how quickly it turned today from a beautiful afternoon to gale force winds, torrential rain, hail, sleet and snow, that there's going to be a lot of these late decisions. So maybe for later in the week, you're better off keeping your money in your pocket for a while.
Yeah, I think so. Even sounds silly, but on Tuesday, once you've had a days of racing on Tuesday, you can see how the ground rides. I'm not so sure the ground will, because Cheltenham is kept obviously for this meeting mainly, and there's lots of fresh ground for these 4 days. You know, the ground here is, even though it's going to be called good soft, it's not going to be, you know, it hasn't had the wear and tear of the last 3 or 4 months where a lot of horses are getting, you know, a lot of hard racing, and you're getting a lot of the grass is gone and the ground is very, very testing. I think that it is going to be slightly nicer conditions than we've had in a few places, and again, you know, it'll be interesting to see on Tuesday how the races run and how it rides, and even the times of the races, because that'll give us a very good idea of what the ground is officially like. Obviously, yeah, I'm hoping we get plenty of rain through the week. I'm sort of opposite to Paul, because I'm hoping it gets wetter through the week. But again, the course is, you know, in fantastic condition. They always do. It's always presented in great condition, and that you know, you will not find better ground at this time of year anywhere else in the world.
John, look, we won't get time to go through every single one of the big handicaps over the course of the week. What are the standouts for you?
The horse that stands out for me, it's actually not in a handicap, it's in the Sunderland's Chase, it's top of the game. Paul's horse nearly won the Carl Cup last year, thought possibly might have gone too soon in the Feltham or the novice chase at Kempton. I think the jockey corrected himself half an hour later in Clan des Obeaux. But to me, this horse, like, I love the shape of him, and he's a great physical specimen. And I think he's going to take an awful lot of beating in that race on Wednesday. This is Sunderland's Chase, Novices Chase. I think Delta work, there's all the rave about him in Ireland, but I still think he's got a bit of work to do. He does make some mistakes in his races, and to me, I think there's more improvement to come from top of the game. So hope I'm not putting the hex in you, Paul.
What do you make of that?
No, I really think top of the game's got a big chance. I mean, he ran off top weight in the Coral Cup last year, I think, of 150, and got beaten nose, ran a blinding race. We left him then to go novice chasing. First time up this year, when the flag dropped at Exeter, he sort of spooked at it and then panicked and got left best part of 25-30 lengths by Defi Dessau, crept round into the race and then only just got beat. Then he ran in a Grade 1 at Christmas, the Cordo Star, and was beaten by the Bagawa, the filly, and he definitely got to the front a little bit too soon. He's still a big baby, and he just sort of he lost his momentum a little bit jumping over the last two. That was still a very good run. He's done a lot of schooling since, though he is basically essentially a really decent jumper. He jumped great at Kempton. He worked great Saturday, looks good, and I purposely haven't run him because he is good fresh. So yeah, I'm glad to hear you think he's got a big chance, because we do.
Sorry, go on.
So carry on, because I'm going to talk.
Just Jessica Harrington. I met Jessica Harrington last Sunday at Leopardstown, and it was snowing, and I got people in a room, and it was all low key, and I kind of just wanted to have a chat with people. And she said that got trumped, like, I'm not a Donald Trump fan, but got trumped. So you might remember the words. She said that was working really, really well at home. He's running in the Boodles. I think it was called the Fred Winter on I think it's the Wednesday. That's the 2 mile juvenile race. It's not the Triumph Hurdle. Got trumped about 20-1 each way. This horse has been running in the Irish graded races, the graded Triumph Hurdle trials. So got trumped is one that the way she spoke about it to me, made me sit up and notice. And Robbie Power is really keen on his ride on Lost in Translation in the JLT. That's on Thursday, the first race. Lost in Translation for Colin Tizard. There's just a couple I heard from Ireland.
Ollie?
Yeah, just on the handicaps. In the first day, I know Vicky makes a good point about the ground. Probably even if there's showers come, it's fresh ground here at Cheltenham, so it shouldn't be too bad. Fingers crossed. But there is a horse in the Ultimate, and Give Me a Cop is the favourite, who has an outstanding chance on paper. But at 25-1, there's a horse trained by Gordon Elliott who will be ridden by Jack Kennedy called General Principle, that won the Irish National a couple of years ago on heavy ground. He had his best run of the season when he was third in a big field race that punched us down last time out. So General Principle is a horse I'll be backing in the Ultima. In the Close Brothers, also on day one, Joseph O'Brien's got a very interesting runner in Tower Bridge. Kevin Blake, who does a lot of work for Joseph O'Brien, he'll be on the opening show every morning next week with us on ITV, and he's sweet on the chance of Tower Bridge. The Boodles, or the race that was the Fred Winter, Surin's an interesting one. And then two horses, I was on a preview panel with Daryl Jacob, who rides obviously for Simon Munir and Isaac Suede. Two horses in handicaps that he was incredibly bullish about. He said Janica in the Brown Advisory was a grade 1 horse running in a handicap. It is the market leader, but I think you have to really respect that. And Paul Nicholls is here. He rode Magic Saint at Wincanton, Daryl did, who's the favourite in the Grand Annual. And if I'm honest, I haven't heard a jockey speak more highly of a horse running in a handicap at the Cheltenham Festival than I heard Daryl talk about Magic Saint. He thinks this horse, like Paul has just said, is an absolute machine. So I think that horse is very interesting in the Grand Annual. For all that those two horses are favourites, as I say, the jockey was so complimentary about both of them, so they're of serious interest to me.
You've a good record in the Grand Annual. Are just certain races that suit certain trainers at times?
This Magic Saint's a bit special, isn't it?
Well, Magic Saint's sort of progressive horse in that he won 4-0 Toy last year as a juvenile, 2 hurdles and 2 chases, so he couldn't run in novice chases this year. The first run for us, he travelled really well over 2.5 at Haydock, and quite obviously worked out he wanted to drop back in trip, and I had in my mind straight away that could win the Grand Annual. So he had another run at Ascot and was not quite right then. Left him off over the winter, because sometimes the horses that come from France just take 8 to 10 months to acclimatise. Went to Wincanton, it was on ITV Racing about 3 weeks ago, and he absolutely dotted in, and Daryl hadn't stopped talking about him. I know if Harry couldn't ride him on Friday, Daryl will be in front of the queue. And he hopefully he's a horse that will end up running in graded races in the future rather than handicap. So in the progression, the handicap is the right one. And to be honest with you, the way in the same race, one of his dangers actually could be Le Président, who won the race last year. He's only a pound higher, and the more it rains during the week, the better for him.
On Wednesday then in the Ballymore, you've Brewing Up a Storm?
Yeah, Brewing Up a Storm, again, he's one of my good rides. Obviously, I think he'd have won here when he fell at the last meeting here, and again, I think he comes. I scored him the other day. It didn't worry him at all. He got straight back up after his fall as well when he galloped off. So he definitely wasn't a tired fall. So I'd like to think he's got he's as good a chance in any of the novice hurdles I've got. So fingers crossed. I think he's about a 10-1 shot. I think he's
9-1. Yeah.
Disappointed if he wasn't in the mix going to last.
All right, that's Brewing Up a Storm. Anything, lads, that you want to butt in on?
I think something we haven't mentioned is the cross-country chase, and the word coming from Ireland is the bet of the week is Tiger Roll, and if whatever trouble you're in, Tiger Roll will roll you out of it. There you go.
Well, Tiger Roll's what, the even money favourite?
Don't worry about that.
Yeah. Tiger Roll was what, 25-1 a couple of weeks ago in the race at back in Ireland?
Yeah, in a hurdle race, I don't think it was expected. And to be fair, some yards are, some owners like a gamble or whatever, but I was out at Leopardstown last week, and Woods Well was the outsider of the Gigginstown Michael Leary colours, and it won. So just because a Gigginstown runner is 33-1 shot doesn't mean it doesn't have a chance. And they've loads of chances in handicaps this week. Trois Phil for Gordon Elliott in the Pretemps, Cap York for Noel Mead is one to follow, Cuneo for Henry de Bromhead. All of these horses have been running well in handicaps in qualifying races in Ireland, and definitely want to be on the right side of them.
Cartwright as well in the Martin Pipe last race. That's going to get you out of trouble as well. Last race on the Friday, you're in a bit of bother. Cartwright will get you out of it as well.
Anything, Ollie, caught your eye in the Champion Bumper?
I heard today that Get in the Queue, actually, who was really well backed, isn't running in the Champion Bumper. That horse goes to Newbury at the end of the month, so that was a notable bit of news today if you missed it. But the horse I quite like in the race, and we could get a pretty rogue Champion Bumper this year. I think it will be one a small field, And 2, I think Willie Mullins is only going to have 1 horse in the race potentially in Blue Sari. So it's going to be a slightly different champion bumper to that we're used to of recent times anyway. And the horse I like actually is Meticulous from Joseph O'Brien's yard. That horse was beaten behind Envoire Allen last time out, but if you watch the race back, then Envoire Allen he basically got first run on Meticulous, and Meticulous did all his best work late on. I think Meticulous is a good play at the moment. He's around about 7-8 to 1, so that's an interesting horse. And then arguably my biggest bet of the week comes in the Ballymore, and the horse is Sam's Profile, trained by Mouse Morris. The disparity in price between Battle Over Doyen and Sam's Profile, I cannot understand, because if you look at the run last time out in Ireland where Battle Over Doyen won, it was brilliant bit of jockeyship from another young rider we'll expect, and who did have a great festival last year, but is sure to have a good festival this year in Jack Kennedy, because Jack Kennedy just had his left hand down, kept boxing Brian Cooper in. Battle Over Doyen got first run, and there was only 2 lengths between them at the line. Mouse Morris trains Sam's Profile. I know they're really sweet on his chances within their camp, and I think, as I say, the disparity in the price between those 2 is wrong. So I think Sam's Profile will have a very good chance. But if you're looking at the betting exchanges at the moment, given the comments that John was saying about the ground and not knowing exactly where horses are running, a horse like Allaho, who I thought was running in the Albert Bartlett, might go to the Ballymore, for example, on soft ground. So the race might slightly change dimension to what you'd expect now, but I'll be having a good bet on Sam's Profile in the Ballymore.
John, your thoughts on the champion bumper? Obviously, a race has been very good to the Irish.
I watched all of the races last night. The one I picked out was Meticulous. So there we go.
Agreed.
No rivalry now anymore, Ireland and England. Meticulous, I think the breeding of Meticulous is it's unbelievable. It's I think it's out of Fame and Glory or something like that, and Refinement. So it's owned by Michael Tabor, who had Refinement, I think, second to Total Enjoyment in the bumper here before. I think she was second another couple of times at the festival. I don't actually know if in his colours if he's ever had a winner at Cheltenham. Joseph O'Brien knows the time of day. Even I was looking at a race, I think he's Shady Operator in Tower Bridge in one race, and he's going to have winners, Joseph, this week. What they are, I don't know, but Meticulous is the one I picked out. It is a small horse, but I think that was the best trial, the one with Envoy Allen. Master Debonair, possibly the best of the home team, but that get in the queue is not running would suggest that the winner might be Irish, and 4-year-olds have got it's hard for a 4-year-old to win, and that's what would put me off Willie's horse, so Meticulous as well.
It'd be some story if he was out of Fame and Glory, I know that, because Fame and Glory is a cult, but...
Talking about Fame and Glory, I've got a real nice horse in this race called Ask for Glory, who's by Fame and Glory. Now, he won his only point-to-point in Ireland on heavy ground. He hosed in. I know David Russell thinks the world of him. He then went to Chepstow and Welsh National Day on heavy ground and never came off the bridle. He absolutely dotted in, and we think quite a lot of him. And Harry Cobden's going to ride him. He worked well yesterday, and I wouldn't be surprised if he runs a big race.
All right, well, we've been...
Ask for Glory is 11 to 1, and it is out of Fame and Glory. Fame and Glory and Refinement, yeah.
Out of?
Aye, Fame and Glory.
It's all the same.
We've been going around the country, as I said, for the last couple of months on the road to gold and on the road to the Gold Cup, and we're almost there. I think we need to chat about the Gold Cup and how lucky we are to have the trainer and then the jockey of 2 of the 3 favourites for the Gold Cup. We'll, out of respect, I think, for the defending champion, chat about Native River. The ground is obviously something you're becoming more and more pleased about.
Yeah, no, it's look, he's ran twice this year. Haydock first time, and then Kempton, 2 tracks that wouldn't have definitely not ideal for him. And ground, we've had just an amazingly dry winter, which hasn't played to his strengths either. But I was actually pleased with him. I was never able to go to gallop at Kempton in the King George, but again, he's just got such an attitude. He kept finding for me. He stayed on really well at the end. When I was going past the winning post, he'd quite happily gone round again. It's just one of those things. I think going left-handed is going to be a bonus for him. The stiffer track and the softer ground, it's all going to help him. Obviously Clanzobo was impressive. King George, obviously he sort of won as he should have. I thought at Ascot, but I thought the King George run was. I know Paul's always thought the world of him, and he's this year he's really, come to fruition. But
are there any worries that Native River didn't get the prep run at Newbury?
Not really. I think he's had 2 runs this year. He obviously, that would have been the ideal situation, but again I think it was the right thing not to go to Ascot. He prefers to go left-handed. If we had a really hard race, I know, well, Clandrobo might have as well, but if we'd have had both of us a really hard race that day, it wouldn't have been ideal 3 weeks before the Gold Cup. So he's coming here fresh and well. You can bet your bottom dollar he'll be keeping going. You know, soft to the ground. It's not that he needs a soft ground. It's just more it puts everything else's stamina under pressure. And I think, you know, obviously he's a Welsh Grand National. We know he stays forever. Obviously it sounds silly to say it, but I wouldn't change it for anything. I love his attitude. You know, he obviously can hopefully get a good start, getting a nice rhythm, and hopefully just put everybody else under pressure. I'm sure there'll be stages through the race that there'll be plenty of other horses going better than him, but you know, the important place is the winning line, and hopefully we'll be there again Friday afternoon.
How big a factor is that in this, that, as you say, there'll be stages of the race when other horses will be going better, but you know, you have the experience with Native River that when it comes down to it, you can get it done? Yeah,
look, I knew last year that I could see something, and I realised then, you know, through the race it was Mike Bite going just, well, better than me. But again, you know, Cheltenham is a unique place because it's quite a quick track. You're always turning. There's the undulations, so you need a horse with class as well as stamina. And then obviously from when you turn the bend to go up the hill, that's when you really need the stamina. So it is a, you know, it's the perfect test for any racehorse. And there's been a lot of horses like Mike Bite last year that very, very good horse, Grade 1 horses that aren't, when you get to second last, that extra furlong and a half, 2 furlongs, that's the difference between winning and losing a Gold Cup. And obviously for me, that's what I'm hoping that will stand me in good stead. And look, he's been third in the race 2 years ago, won the race last year. I can't see any reason why he hasn't got a fantastic chance. But obviously, look, it's presenting Percy as the unknown, and Paul's horse has got fantastic form this year. You can't contain your excitement when you're talking about Native River. Every single time the name comes up, you just got this giant smile on your face. If I can't get excited about him, I definitely should give up. Paul, let's talk then about Clandrobo. Preparation perfect?
Yeah, it's gone perfect. Obviously, he ran very well. He didn't really get the credit I felt he deserved at Haydock on his first run when he finished 5th. He wasn't beaten too far, and that day on his handicap rating, I probably made the biggest mistake in my life by not running him in the Hennessy the week after, because it'd probably been an absolute certainty because he was so badly in at the weights. But I always believed he'd be running in these races. I had the King George in my sights, and I thought we've got to run okay at Haydock against these horses, and left-handed. I knew there was a lot of improvement to come from him, and so that was a good run. And in just the minute we left, Politolog had just won at Ascot, and I said to Harry, well, you're going to have a headache now at Cheltenham, up at Kempton, to choose between Politolog or Clandrobo. He said, no, I've already made it. He said, because Clan will outstay Politolog. And he had great belief in that horse from that day onwards, and he just improved and improved from there to Kempton. And obviously he won very nicely at Kempton, jumped well, travelled well. He doesn't do a whole heap in front. And then we went to Ascot, and that couldn't have gone better, really. And he jumped with great confidence. The horses got confidence. Harry's got confidence in him. And it was good to see him sprint away from the back of the last to the line, still with his ears pricked, because he has been quite green. And the one thing that'll be a little bit of a headache for him here is that, when you, I can remember Silvanaco Conti and Bobsworth a few years ago jumped the last in front. Both of them looked to go out left-handed again and stopped in front. And the roar, you imagine what it's like with those horses going to the last, and they're actually sort of run into a funnel. And some horses do actually look up a little bit and sort of back off a fraction. He's always been a little bit green like that. So, it's good to see him getting his head down and galloping all the way to the line. And he's just been a big, weak baby up to now, really. So I'm thrilled with him.
Is there a way of training that out of him?
Just as experience, basically. He's only a 7-year-old, and it's just experience. And he's got there now.
We'll just pretend these two aren't here then for the rest of the conversation. Where do you stand on it, Oli?
Well, as you've mentioned, we've been on the road to gold. So we started in Clonmel, went to Dublin, London, and now we've ended up here at Cheltenham. And this is the first year that Magners are sponsoring the race, and they're really behind it. They've put on an unbelievable show in the build-up to it. Cheltenham are always behind the Gold Cup, and I think this year, like I said at the top, I think they've been rewarded with a brilliant renewal of the Magners Gold Cup. For me, if it's good ground, I fancy Paul's horse, and I'm not just saying it because I'm sat on a sofa with them, and if it's soft ground, I fancy Richard's horse. I think Native River is the solid play if it is a testing Gold Cup, and I think Clandrobo is the up-and-comer, the new kid on the block, if you like, who's more than capable of winning a Cheltenham Gold Cup in terms of his latent talent. Conditions might slightly go against him, potentially if it's soft ground. People I've heard on panels and whatnot say that the Cheltenham factor might be a problem with Clandis-Obo, which I think personally is complete nonsense. He was second in a Caspian Caviar Gold Cup off top weight as a 5-year-old, second to Whisper here at Cheltenham, so I don't see Cheltenham being a problem for him. I think it will be between those two, but again, if it's soft ground, which it might be given the forecast, 2 horses at a massive price, which I think you couldn't rule out, would be Elegant Escape, another one of Colin Tizard's, who will just... You do need a stayer to win a Gold Cup, obviously. I think he'll just be running on till... Well, he probably needs about 5 miles, in truth. But I think Elegant Escape is a player if it's soft ground. And lots of people in this room will call me absolutely bonkers. But I think Bristol de May is a little bit overpriced. Given that 2 runs ago, he beat Native River, Might Bite, Clandis-Obo at Haydock. He was second in a JLT at the festival in years gone by. Yes, he is better at Haydock, but on soft ground at 25, 33 to 1, whatever he may be, I wouldn't be completely shocked if he finished in the first 3.
At about 25 to 1.
Yeah.
Why aren't you talking about Presenting Percy?
Because I think his preparation isn't good enough to win a Gold Cup. I don't think you can win a Gold Cup without having run over fences.
Is that the one, was it 1920s, 1930s?
929, yeah.
There you go, yeah. There you go, since the horse...
I mean, he's defying statistics, history. He's a very, very good horse. He's a decent jumper, clearly he won an RSA, but I wouldn't be backing him because he hasn't jumped a fence in public this year.
Could you be confident as a trainer of a horse going to a Gold Cup without having jumped over fences this season?
I think it's difficult. Saying that, he's obviously a high-class horse, but you know, he's an RSA winner. To be favourite for the Gold Cup, I think you'd have liked to seen him win an Irish Gold Cup or a Lexus or some of the races on the way. You know, the next step up from winning an RSA to getting to the top level. I think there's a big gap there that he hasn't been able to fulfil yet, and I think it's going to be tough for him. Yeah, he won the RSA, but he hasn't gone that step forward yet. Now, he might win a Gold Cup, and if he is, he's an exceptional horse, but I do think it's hard.
Pat Kelly is a bit of a genius at getting them ready for Cheltenham, so it wouldn't be the biggest shock in the world, but not for me.
With all that in mind then, John, why is Presenting Percy slightly ahead of Clandis-Obo and Native River in the market?
Because of his run in last year's Sunlines and the way the form has worked out. So if you look at the horse race last year, he travelled beautifully, he jumped economically, and he just picked off Elegant Escape and Monolly going to the last, and he scooted clear up the hill to win by 7 lengths. That's why, and he won his hurdle race. He showed great resolution to win that at Goran Park recently. I would agree with Paul that Presenting Percy has not proven it against senior horses in big trials this year. What is the biggest trial for the Gold Cup? The King George. I know it's like Kempton and it's right-handed, but traditionally it's the biggest trial for the Gold Cup is the King George. And then you've got other races like trials like the Irish, the race at Christmas at Leopardstown, the Savills Chase, and then the Irish Hennessy, which is now a different name, the Irish Gold Cup. So we saw what Sizing John won the Irish Gold Cup, was a good 2-miler, had shown form, was a last time out winner coming into it. So at the price is 5 to 2. Presenting Percy might be this just the magical enigma of a horse. All the mystery, the horses generally aren't trained out in Galway in the west of Ireland, and he comes and he wins for this small trainer, and it's a beautiful story about what Niall was saying earlier on about Denoli. But to me, it's a bit too much of a fairy tale. Clandis-Obo, hugely impressive. The King George to me was a great race at Christmas. That was an excellent race. The horse is obviously massively improved, got a lot of confidence with the jockey behind him. Native River, you can't go against what Richard is saying. The only other horse I would add into this mix is Alboom Photo, who has shown great time in terms of you're doing your sectionals about time and speed. His performance at Tremor on New Year's Day was very impressive. He was third here at the festival last year. He probably was going to be third behind Presenting Percy. Fell. His jumping sometimes isn't the best, but then he improved to win at Ferryhouse, beat Shattered Love, and then he was going to win at Punchestown with Monolly and Shattered Love and all behind before the jockey just had a brain freeze, and I think we all remember him going out the side. So Alboom Photo is a horse, I think he's only 7. I think he's an improving type, and I think that about 10, 11 to 1, he could be the each way chance.
And that'd be a hell of a story as well if it was Alboom Photo or Ken Boy.
With Sat Nav on.
for Willie Mullins, with what, over 60 winners at the Cheltenham Festival, 6 runners up in the Gold Cup.
Yeah, so you see 61 winners, and like Phil Mickelson, six runners up finishes, and Willie's actually never won the champion chase either. So look, I think he's got invitation only. Ken Boy and Bells Hill, I don't personally fancy. I think Ken Boy might want better ground and kind of stole the race at Christmas. Bells Hill has not run that well at the festival before, so I think Clanda's Oboe, Native River, Presenting Percy, and then Album Photo.
You're going with the fairy tale, Niall. You're dreaming.
After 3 hard days drinking and not sleeping enough, I'll be betting with nothing but my heart on Friday. I'll be looking at Presenting Percy to bring that magic story back into play back home.
Kev?
I'll back Clanders Oboe, yeah. That's what I'll be backing. So we'll see, hopefully.
When we started this by talking about storylines and the greater good for horse racing, any of these is a good storyline, whether it is as we say, the rogue out in the west of Ireland who pulls off this unbelievable training performance from Presenting Percy, Alex Ferguson been part over of Clanders Oboe and all he's gone through over the past year to maybe get that picture on Cheltenham next Friday, and then obviously maybe the possibility of Native River going back to back. There's so many good potential storylines there. Alex Ferguson is a part owner of a horse. Is he standoffish, or is he on the phone every day?
He is at the moment, yeah, because everything's winning. I get a text most days from him, but he's really looking forward to it. He's got Gimmer Copper on Tuesday, and then obviously Clanders Oboe on Friday, and he's enjoyed this season. Obviously he's come back from very newsy. He very nearly lost him last year, and he's gradually recovered, and he's in good spirits, and I know he's looking forward to it, and I hope he's going to come on Friday.
Is it true that he's actually managing Manchester United and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is just in front of the house?
I don't know about that. I'm not sure. I doubt it.
Before we wrap up then, I want to get your one nap for the week off, all of you. We'll start with the experts down the end. Niall?
My one nap of the week, Paul Nolan, he runs one whose name, Disco Rama, who seems as if he'll stay all day, running in the 4-miler on the first day, good jockey up, and fell. I think we're going to win again the last day in good form, and I'd love to see it for Paul, because Paul is beautifully mad. One of the greatest characters, I think, on the circuit, and if you ever get time or a chance to spend some time with him, you'll feel good afterwards, and I hope for him Disco Rama goes up.
Kevin, I know you get the good word from Gordon Elliott. Anything you're particularly looking at?
No, I think Niall's already touched on him. We touched on him earlier on. We backed him a couple of years ago when he won at 16 to 1 Tiger Roll. Tiger Roll looks an absolute certainty to me. I'd be very, very confident. It's around about even money. So again, it's no money, but it might be something when you are struggling on one of the days and you need something to get you out of a bit of a hole. I'm sure you've all been there at some stage. So yeah, it's I think Tiger Roll is the bet of the week. I think, yeah.
John?
I'm going with Paul's horse, top of the game in the RSA Novice Chase on the Wednesday, about 3 to 1. I think it's the second race on the Wednesday, so going to go with bravery with the chase. But I do like this horse, and I think he's going to be a class above.
Richard?
Well, it's got to be Native River. I think. Look, 2 weeks ago I was really not worried about the conditions, but obviously the rain is definitely helped a lot, and I think, yeah, fingers crossed everything's going the right way to giving him his best chance.
Paul, what you got for us?
I'm going to say Magic Saint in the Grand Angel.
All right. And Ollie?
Well, I've thoroughly loved being on the road to gold, but I'm going to go for a selection in the Champion Hurdle, and Lorena for me is...
There's a lot of love for Lorena over in that corner.
Thank you very much again, sir.
We have been selling this as Ireland against England as well. Was it 17 last year, 19 the previous year for Ireland, John?
That's right, yeah.
Is the Prestbury Cup coming back across the water?
I think England
again?
are going to win it this year, actually. England are going to win it, and they're odds against, and that's a good bet.
Why?
Even if you just look at, if you even go through the manner races, I just think the English hand is stronger this year. I think Willie's hand might not be as strong as it has been in previous years, because he's had an amazing run. And I just think, we had 17 and 19, but we only maybe had more winners maybe 3 or 4 times. So actually, I think that is actually hard to have more winners than the English, and I think English will have more winners this year.
Ollie, are you going along with that?
Yeah, I do. I think that if they're odds against, I think that is a very good bet, actually. But whatever happens in terms of who wins the Prestbury Cup and who wins the Gold Cup, I do know that this place already is alive, and it's great to see so many people come out. But I guarantee that come rain or shine, once again Cheltenham will put on a brilliant show. So I just cannot wait for it to get started now, and I wish everyone the best of luck with their bets. But it's going to be a real treat for us all next week.
If you can't get there, watch ITV.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And Saturday, Tuesday,
hopefully nobody peeing in the background when you're doing your first leg.
But look, we've got loads of stuff coming up on the show. We'll obviously have the opening show every morning. We've got a feature on Denoli. We've got a feature with Kaylee Woolacott. We've got a feature with Andrew Gemmell. So we're in for a treat, hopefully.
All right, I think everyone is in for a treat over the course of this week. Hopefully it's been a good start to the week for you. Thanks very much for coming out in the pretty horrible conditions. Hopefully that improves over the coming days as well. Let's give it up for our panel, please. Our wonderful guests, Paul Nicholls, Richard Johnson, Oli Bell, John Duggan, Kevin Kilbane and Niall Quinn. Thanks to everybody involved with the Road to Gold team for helping us make this happen tonight and over the past couple of months. And thanks to you, our wonderful crowd as well. We might get into